Today we look at symbol creation, symbol editing, and I'm using the HyDraw CAD 2021 beta because there are a lot of changes in the way we build symbols. We improved a lot that, and we think it makes really sense to show how easily you can build the new symbols and modify with a new interface. So that represent a change if compared to HyDraw CAD 2020. Well, before starting, let me just pick a symbol, and I will do some example of symbols today. Hopefully, it will be interesting enough. Otherwise, if you want me to show you some particular symbols, you can post in the questions, and I'll try to address. So I can be flexible in the way I make the webinar. So let me start very simple. Very simple. So in HyDraw library, we have all these symbols for directional control buttons, and they don't have the manual override. They don't show it. So the first exercise is how can we add a manual override to a symbol, and also how can we save this symbol to the library. We could directly work in this environment. So we just select the symbol and do the edit symbol. Now edit symbol will open the block, and as you can see now, it's a bit different compared to HyDraw CAD if you ever noticed HyDraw CAD 2020. So we have an important information. In the past, we had some issues between metric and imperial symbols. So now you see the unit you are working with. The new ribbon has been completely redesigned. We are in a block editor mode. These two commands, save changes and discard changes, are mainly to get back to where you were working. But here now we find much more commands here. So we have the ISO elements. So basically on the right, the ISO building block panel can be loaded by clicking ISO elements. If you don't find it, it will be loaded. And you have a set of all the ISO elements. You have a shortcut to create fluid lines, dashed lines, universal envelope. You add text and so on. We'll see during today's presentation how I can use them. So now let me just add manual override. So I just double click on a symbol and place it. I'm working with the grid. So basically in this case, I want to move this symbol down by 1 millimeter. So I move down and press 1, enter. I also don't like, I want to show the manual override. So according to ISO, these two segments show that it's a push. Otherwise, if you have the two lines on the other direction, it is a pull override. If you don't want to specify which type of manual override, you simply delete these lines. So this is a block in the block. So let me explode it. AutoCAD command explode. You can just press X for explode, and it will explode the entity. And let me just delete one segment and the other segment. Let me clean up. We miss another segment connecting the primary spool. So let me just stretch this line up to this entity here. We want the same entity to be on the other side, so we can just copy. And we can rotate, right click, rotate. We take the center and by 180 degrees, and we do the same. So now we have just changed a bit our symbol very quickly. We added a two manual override. Now we can save the changes, and the changes will be applied to the symbol we are working on. And if we wanted to add the symbol to the library, let me create a new folder. So in HyDraw CAD 2020, it was not possible to create folders directly in the Library Explorer. There was a dedicated menu called Manage Symbols. Now we went back a bit more towards the earlier versions of HyDraw CAD. So we can open the library editor. So this mode is allows the user, if it has permission, to work directly on the library. And here we can just create a new folder called webinar. And inside this folder, we can add a symbol. So we can just right click, add new. We select the symbol and press enter, and the symbol is going to be added directly to our library. So now this is really the easiest way. You have a symbol, you add it directly in the drawing, and then save to the library if you want to save to the library. Let me show you really what happens if you really want to build a symbol from scratch. So in the HyDraw 2021, we have a third mode, which is called build symbols. So if you click, by default, this icon symbol is supposed to load the Library Explorer. So if you close by mistake, you just load the Library Explorer. There is a second mode which is historically present in HyDraw CAD, which is a symbol from part list. So this is needed when you want to insert symbols taking model codes from a list in Excel format. This third is a new enhancement in HyDraw CAD 2021. And basically, this will enter directly into the build symbol mode. So as you see here, we are in the same exact environment as we were before, but now we are building a new symbol. So on the top left, we have the possibility to define a component type. Please remember, component type none is used when you want to build a symbol block, but you don't need it in a part list. So component type none is really a component type that is not used by HyDraw in any part list or export to MD tools or other commands. What we want is always create a symbol with different component types. So let me create a directional control valve, sonar controlled, pilot operated, surface mounted. So basically, what I want to do now is in our library, so this is a standard exercise I made several times during training in my activity with VEST. So in our library, we have a lot of symbols, directional control valve, let's say non-stackable symbols. Later, we'll do an example of stackable symbols. Sonar controlled, pilot operated, NG, let's say with external pilot, external drain, dual solenoid, spring center. So this kind of symbols really show a two-stage valve. Basically, this is electro-hydraulic valve. So basically, there is a primary stage and a secondary stage. So the primary stage is the flow, the high power stage, and there is a pilot stage on top. So now I want to build a complete symbol for this kind of spool, which is showing exactly how the valve is built. So not this simplified representation, which is the ISO 1219, but I want to build a complete symbol. So let me get rid of all of that. So basically what happens is that this valve is built of two elements. One is an hydraulic pilot operated element, which is, let me take this one, external pilot spring center. Let's say that we want this element here. And in addition, we have directional control valve, which is basically the same that we have been using earlier. And let me place this symbol. Please note that when you search, so this is a big improvement compared to HyDraw CAD 2020. So when you search symbol, even in build mode, you are able to find in Fluid Power Tools or in your library or whatever. When you place a symbol in this mode, the symbol will be exploded because you are building a symbol. You don't need blocks inside the block. We are just placing and exploding the symbol. Let me just get rid of A and B. I don't want now to complicate items. So basically what happens, and I'm going to build a stackable symbol for an NG16 kind of valve with this spool. So in terms of hydraulic functionality, let me build an envelope. So with universal line, I just make the boundaries of my symbol. Please remember, if you wanted to always make vertical, horizontal lines, press F8. And now you are, I tried my HyDraw to always make horizontal or vertical lines. If you don't want, you just press F8 again, and then you are free to make all the lines inclined. So my symbol is going to move up a bit. And I wanted the P port, they are coming from a different position. So let's say that the P port is somewhere here. And I also want to make some more room. So this one, I move it to the left. In this case, I speak about an external pilot. So let me put the X here. And external drain. So also the drain will be somewhere here. And I have my tank line that is going to be on the other side. So in this case, I'm just moving the ports that I already have in the diagram and move them here. So in terms of hydraulic functionality, the pressure line will go directly to the pressure. So we don't need anymore this P port. We will just make fluid lines. Go in here. Actually, this is not a dashed line. So if by mistake you create a dashed line, you can just use the match property command. Start, select the source, and then copy the line type to the destination. So basically, this valve, the pilot of this main spool is coming from the second valve, so the pilot stage. And basically, what happens is that when we want to go P to A, so we want to make P to A, we need to move the spool to the right. That means we want to give pressure to this line. So in order to give pressure, we want to move the second stage to the right. So we need to connect with the dashed line now here. While on the others, well, let me move this up a bit. While if we want to make the opposite, then we are going to make this fluid flow. Also, we want to make this dashed, so we copy match properties, align with another one. If you don't have the dashed line type in your symbol, the easiest way is you add a dashed fluid line and use it as a source for your change. So you use this as information, geometry information to apply to the other connection lines. Of course, if you are very familiar with AutoCAD, then you can go directly to the drafting menu. You can select a line, and as you can see, you have the possibility to select the different line types that you have available in your drawing. But let's go back to the symbol editor. So as you see here, when making symbols, I am in the symbol editor. This is blue. This is the primary menu I'm working on, but still you have access to all the other menus. Let me get rid of the other information. Now let me connect the tank lines. So fluid line, this is going to tank. And the drain line is going to drain. And the pilot line is going to pilot. So I don't like much. Let me move this X. This looks good. So since I'm building this stack module, I will need to fit into really the standard NG16 valve that I have in the library. So let me load as an example a symbol that is a stackable symbol, flipped, sonar controlled, pilot operated, so that I can see if the pattern that I have selected is correct. Let me put it here, then I will remove it. So this is the standard shape. So let me make my symbol slightly larger. So the easiest way to modify symbols that you are building is to use the AutoCAD stretch command. Please don't make confusion between AutoCAD stretch and HyDraw stretch command. HyDraw stretch command is for the connection lines. In this case, this is a pure drafting command. If you don't see it on your quick access toolbar, like in my case, you find this command very powerful down here, stretch. Let me highlight. This is one of the most powerful command that I use when using HyDraw. So you stretch, you select with a window from right to the left part of the diagram, confirm, and then we make a modification. Same here. Please pay attention to what I select. So in this case, I select only the vertical P line, so that in this case, the change is only applied to that vertical P line. And same here. As you see, I didn't select this corner, so the stretch has modified my symbol. So in this case, it's very easy to fix. I just move this corner. Otherwise, you need to pay attention to how you select the items. Let me move the item ID. So this has a particular importance. So where you position this item ID is where physically HyDraw will put the item ID with the balloon by default for your symbol. So sometimes I like to have the item ID inside the symbol because that's not taking any more room, but really it is up to you. I don't need this other symbol here. And to gain a bit of room, I can just make this slightly up. So let's say that my symbol geometry is this, and this symbol is according to ISO 1219. When I make this kind of symbols, I like honestly to do something else here. Well, I just forgot to match properties to make this connection dashed. So in this case, those are not high flow connection, they are just pilot lines. I was saying that normally I like to use ISO colors in this kind of symbols. So if you want, although this is not really an ISO recommendation, but it has nothing against ISO. Basically, ISO 1219 says that all the lines inside the symbol must be green with this layer, solid or dashed. But for connection lines, ISO is also saying that pilot line have an orange color, dashed pressure line has always an orange color. So in this case, I want to apply the same coloring. So now I need to go to the drafting menu. And I have selected the lines and I want to change layer. So in this case, I use the layer isolin PRE. So this is the layer of the pressure lines. Tank lines, according to ISO, belong to ISO layer reservoir. All the control lines belong to a layer isolin control. Match properties, now I want to copy that property to all the pilot lines. And then we have drain lines. This is going to isolin drain, match properties. And the only two working lines are these two, and those belong to isolin work. You will not see any difference between isolin FLU and isolin working. This is again according ISO. This icon is the insertion point. So you can control the insertion point. It was always a bit tricky to define the insertion point in older versions of HyDraw. Now to control the insertion point, we can use this command, insertion point. We just click it and select the new insertion point, and now the icon will move. This is much easier. So this is our symbol. Another item that we can control is display format. So display format are all the attributes that we have defined in our library and that we want to be visible in our diagram. So if we want, we can add a display format. And for this component, we only have the cavity, let's say the cavity. We want to add the cavity and we want to position here. So now, as you see, I have placed my cavity name exactly on this position. Let me move 1 millimeter up. So this is where HyDraw will write the cavity name for this symbol. Now I save my changes and I have built my HyDraw symbol. I forgot to copy, apply the same pilot lines. So let me go back to symbol editor, edit symbol, and let me match properties again. And save changes. So now my symbol is complete and I can add to my library. So let's go back to my folder webinar and I want to add a new symbol. And now I'm adding the symbol to the library. Now that I have built this frame, creating a new symbol of the same kind is very, very easy. So let's go back to symbol, build symbol mode. We bring in this symbol. And now let's say that we want an internal pilot. So internal pilot means that this port is closed. So we find the terminator, this is the terminator. Okay, then we rotate it, rotate. So X is closed and basically the pressure is going to make the pilot, internal pilot. And in this case, we need a connection dot. So the connection dot is on the ISO building blocks here, and we make the connection dot. And now we can save changes. And we have built a new symbol. And again, the same tricky, add new, and we can add it to the library. But now we have built the same spool with a different configuration. And now we can really go on and make all the other configuration because we may have a different spool. Instead of a closed center, we will need maybe a H center. And we can save changes. And this is done. And we have done a new symbol. And if we want, we add again to the library. And we can go on forever building new symbols. With the same technique, I got a request from several customers. So basically in our library, we really follow what we find in the ISO 1219. So basically all the symbols are stacked up or down. But frequently I see customer asking about symbols stacked horizontally. And although technically it is possible, really, we could rotate a symbol and do all the sandwich valve. So imagine we have the manifold subplate vertically and all the valves assembled on the left or right side. But in this case, the way the spool is represented is not something I like too much because it does not help readability of the diagram. So what I did, and let me quickly do and show you how we can make it very efficient. Let me copy this in the clipboard, copy. I make a new symbol. And let me bring in my symbol somewhere here. Let me explode it, because I don't want to have a symbol inside. Let me keep A and B, that's not a problem. So let's say that I want to make those horizontal. So always stay in the grid. So when I pasted, I didn't do a good job. So if you want to put a symbol in the grid, select all, right click, move. If you are unable to select the insertion point, press F9 so that it will allow you. If you does not snap F3, and then it takes that point, and then F9 again, and we are able to snap to a grid point. Okay, now my P port will be my insertion point. So let me move my P port here. My T port will be here. Let me get rid of Sonorio. We could add later. I want to move everything down. M for move down. Fluid line. So that's my tank line. That's my pressure line. Another very handy command in the newer version of HyDraw CAD is the new AutoCAD extend. It was a bit not so efficient in the older version. So this is thanks to the newer AutoCAD engine. So extend and trim work in a much more simplified way compared to previous versions of HyDraw CAD. Let me put A port here, B port here. And let me create again connection lines, fluid line. And again, extend. As always, I like to have shortcuts on the top menu. So if you need, click on a command, add to quick access toolbar, and it will go up on the shortcut menu. So I want to extend. I want to make my boundaries. And this is fine. Save changes. And I have my horizontal sandwich module. Now I can build all the other elements with the same approach. I could go again in the symbol mode. Let me bring in the symbol, move it in the position, explode. I don't need these elements. Let's say that I need to build the PO check valve, dual PO check valve. I look for the component Z2S6 Bosch Rexroth. And let me take the symbol. This one is the symbol. I position here. I can just make the line this way. Also the tank line will be passed through. A and B are not needed anymore. I can rotate my entities this way. I can move them. Let me put them in this position. So this one I can just make it straight. This one I can make it this way. And also this one is straight. Now we can stretch this block. Always a stretch command. We make it smaller and smaller. And now we define that this is a check valve, pilot operated check valve stack module. And we save our changes. So this is our symbol. And with the same technique, we can build all the other elements that we need. And like I did earlier, I can go directly to my folder and add the new symbols. So now my symbols are part of my folder, and I can really use them. So I can place this one, and I can use the HyDraw CAD stack command stack, in this case to the left. And now this is behaving like a single stack.